Hello, Spartan faculty and staff. For people that don't know me, hi, I'm Brian Smith. I am a fourth year chemistry teacher here at Silmar. I teach 3 classes for the magnet and I teach 2 classes for the main school. So I feel like I have a good feel of the pulse of the school as a whole. Uh, you might be wondering right now why I am not wearing the same shirt I just was. Well, I'm a huge advocate of technology. What you just saw was a small little clip that I always start my classroom with, and then I take a snapshot to verify attendance. I'm doing the same thing here for this PD, and then I lead into this recorded video. So just so you know, this was pre-recorded. I have a 6-month-old, which means that loud bits of crying always seem to be just a moment's notice away. So rather than letting that interfere with our professional development session, I record everything ahead of time. I do the same thing for my class. I think it's a valuable resource to have. But that doesn't mean that I'm not here to support you. I am probably already responding to questions in chat. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in chat and I should be able to get back to you very quickly. If you are watching this after the fact, uh, well, that's perfect. That's the whole point of these videos is so that the instruction doesn't have to be uh, dependent on attendance. It can be asynchronous, and the same thing for these professional development sessions, especially when we go through technology. Technology has a lot of small little clicks and buttons that you have to push, and for those people that have trouble keeping up, having a video record is always useful. So you can always access this video whenever you want after the fact, especially if you are trying to build out your own Google site. I use these Google Sites as a classroom project, and my students are constantly checking the videos to make sure that they're doing what they need to do. So I just wanted to give you that prefacing information. Anyways, let's jump into that survey that I gave you. I link this in the chat. It's just a brief little survey, again, just checking for attendance and making sure that I get some background information about you guys. So this is our Google site PD with Smith. Um, and I just want some real basic cursory information, your email address, your name, and have you ever Googled your own name? Hmm. What pops up when you Google your own name? Well, I think that's a very valuable thing to do because, um, well, it's something that a lot of us are doing, especially if you are in a younger generation. I'll say that growing up with technology as a millennial or seeing our students that are Zoomers, they're accustomed to always working with technology. So they're probably going to be Googling a lot of the things that you say or do, and they'll certainly be Googling you. I know that I would Google a majority of my professors beforehand, before I had a class, just to see what I was in store for, see if there's anything that would be important for knowing about their class. So I try to put myself in my students' shoes and see what happens when I Google myself. So uh, go ahead and Google yourself. The first thing that you should probably do though when you Google yourself, keep in mind is that your search results are usually going to be impacted by previous search results. So you should probably open it up in an incognito window. So you can open up an incognito window, especially if you're using Chrome, by holding Control Shift and N, and that's going to open up your incognito window. And from this incognito window, shoot, I'll do a quick little search for Brian Smith. Yeah, an American photographer pops up. Yeah, not that's for me. I have sort of a more ubiquitous name, so you're going to be hard pressed to find more information about myself, um, unless we get more specific. Let's try some other people. Let's say Deborah Steinert. Mrs. Steinert is an institution here at Silmar High School, and she has a relatively unique name. And she does. She pops up. The first thing that pops up for Miss Steinert is our website. That's a good thing. That's perfect. The second thing that pops up is Facebook. Let's see. Let's see if she's got that public. Ah, good. She's got that locked down. That's not public. That's perfect. You got to be careful. You got to be careful, especially with social media, what your students see. Let's look at our own principal, Mr. Wright. So Rodney Wright, again, a more common name doesn't necessarily pop up, but if you're a sleuth, like say your colleagues or your students, they might be looking up Rodney Wright Silmar. And when you look up Rodney Wright Silmar, well, you do get his Twitter. And that is, I also think, a good thing because Mr. Wright has control of this. He curates the information that's on here. He is in control of the narrative of his persona. When you have control of your persona online, that is a very powerful thing. So I just did Rodney Wright Silmar. Let's see when I do Brian Smith Silmar. Okay, that pops up. So one of my questions was, well, if you Google your name, then also Google your name with your school. See if those results are slightly different. They may be slightly different, and that would be important to look at. But you could see that it pops up with my class information, and then I have my brand site here. So when you look up Brian Smith, because the name is so generic, it really doesn't help. It doesn't help students get to the information that I need them to if they Google my name. Because of that, I've actually taken a different approach. This is something that I picked up in a Dale Carnegie course when I was in sales and an account manager. They very much were advocating for developing your own brand identity because that way you'll have control of what people see. So I have rebranded myself not as Brian Smith, but Brian Teaches. This is my professional brand, and this is something that actually transcends the. If I just Google Brian Teaches, I think it should pop up. Yeah, it's usually actually the first result is Brian Teaches. If your brand is dependent on Silmar, that's not a bad thing, especially if you're here. But I am pragmatic. I understand that my predecessors have had to relocate because of things that are out of their control, like the real estate market. I love my job here at Silmar, but there's no way to tell if I'll be here forever. And because of that, I've tried to brand myself as something that's a little bit more independent, and that's the Brian Teaches brand. And that's where we get this website, and it's got the title for it and everything. And I think that's just a very valuable thing to have. You might be asking yourself, well, why do I need to brand myself? Well, I mean, I think there's some valuable reasons why you should be branding yourself and developing websites, and I'm actually going to cover those today in this personal development or professional development session. So if you go to brianteaches.com, I'm going to be narrating through our professional development section right here. This is my launching pad for all of my students to get information about the classes that I teach, including this PD. So this website is developed on Google Sites, and that's what this PD is all about, is Google Sites and why I think you should be using Google Sites in your classroom and also, personally. Why I think it's important for all teachers to have a Google site, and conversely, why I think they should be teaching their students about Google Sites. So I got to apologize that up front that this PD is kind of split up into two sections. There's going to be a a sales pitch, and then I'll go into more of the technical details about how to use Google Sites. But in my opinion, if I can't sell you on the idea of Google Sites beforehand, what's the point of teaching you how to use it? I've been in too many professional developments where they didn't sell it, and I saw too many teachers tune out, including some of the ones that I've run myself. So if I don't sell you on this and I don't convince you that it's important, feel free to tune out. Feel free to drop the session, but hopefully I can convince you that it's important. So if you wanted to follow along, you could go to brianteaches.com and you could go ahead and watch this. So Google Sites. Why do I think Google Sites are important? Well, they are SEO'd, they are simple, and they are slick. The trifecta of S's. SEO'd. What the heck does that mean? We'll get to that. So I'll just read off. In this professional development session, I want to advocate for the implementation of Google Sites into your professional tool set. I have my own students create their own Google Sites as a comprehensive final project to showcase their newly acquired technical skills and also the chemistry content knowledge that I'd like them to see. And I believe that every teacher should have their own Google site for some of the things I'll mention. Uh, important thing to remember, your students and parents are already looking you up on Google. Are you proud of what they will see? I had a conversation about this when I was working with physicians and cleaning up their social media presence and their online presence, because that was one of the past careers that I was involved in. I usually ran with fear as a selling point, which was not are they proud of what they were see, but are you in control of what they see? Now, that's a good way to sell a product is fear, but I'm trying to get some more buy-in from teachers, so I'm trying to make it a little bit more about what you can do and why you should be proud of your online presence. So, are you proud of what they'll see? Well, we just did a quick Google search. When you search yourself, are you proud of what they'll see? Are they seeing social media that you don't really have a good handle on? Um, are they even seeing you at all? If not, then maybe using Google Sites could be helpful. So the first one, is well, they got to see you, right? If they can't see you in Google, if you're not there, then uh, they're gonna have a hard time making up their mind about you. So Google Sites are search engine optimized. That's what SEO means, is search engine optimization. So put yourself in your student's shoes. They'll be looking you up, guarantee it. Imagine you were a disgruntled parent who wanted an explanation for a low grade. They're probably going to be looking you up. What shows up when you Google your name? What shows up when you Google your name with your school, like we just did? Search engine optimization is it's a huge industry. It's been growing and growing and growing. It's now at almost 80 billion per year. What this is a lot of customers, well, a lot of people in general are using search engines. So in order to drive your result, your desired result up to the very top of that search engine, you've got to optimize your website for that. It's search engine optimization. And there are a lot of complexities to search engine optimization. I've been in web dev for over a decade, and search engine optimization has changed significantly over time. But the Google algorithm has a hugely complex set of code in order to determine what goes up at the top. If it was super easy, then you wouldn't have all the money that's invested in it. But companies want their results at the top, and just the same, you would like to be at the top. Unfortunately, we can't shell out the money that Amazon or Walmart can in order to get the top of Google. So we have to be more creative. And thankfully, Google Sites has a lot of that search engine optimization baked into the product. Because Google has specific algorithms for looking and tracking at headings and various HTML, lots of embedded code. It would be hard to do it yourself. You know, you'd have to hire somebody potentially. But if you use Google Sites, things get indexed pretty quickly up to the top. I mean, you saw with mine, hey, I look up Brian Teaches and right up at the top we've got my website. I have a few other projects that I'm happy to say that they are very high up, like Silmar Esports. If you Google Silmar Esports, top of the chart is our Google site. So using Google Sites has an inherent benefit in that you are search engine optimized and you're going to be crawling up to the top of Google's results. So I think that's a big perk. I think that's one of the biggest perks for using Google Sites over something like WordPress or um, just putting together your own site through HTML and CSS and JavaScript. I've done that before, and it's needlessly complex, and you don't get the same benefits. So that's one reason why I think Google Sites are important. Um, Google Sites are also pretty slick and responsive. So modern websites are designed with an end user in mind. For a majority of users, including your students and parents, this means more eye-catching visual content and less text. I know right now it's kind of hypocritical because I've got quite a bit of text in my own website, but the trend in web design has been away from tons of text. They want more big, bright images. It catches the eye. Text is, I mean, it's sometimes daunting. There's so much. And on top of that, text does not really shrink down very well in a mobile environment. So because a majority of web traffic now occurs on smaller screens such as smartphones and tablets, this means that modern sites should be responsive. So what does responsive mean? What that means is that the content that's in that site, it doesn't just go from a big screen and shrink everything down. Because if you have a bunch of text and you shrink it down, then you can't really see. You're going to constantly be, zooming in, and you might hit a button and it doesn't hit the right button. That means that the site is not responsive. It's not responsive to your environment that you're viewing it on. A responsive site is one that's going to change the way that it looks depending on what you're looking at. So this site, for example, I know it is responsive because if I was to make it smaller, I can see that it doesn't just shrink everything, it literally restructures the content of the site. Now, Google Sites does that natively. You don't have to worry about all of the complicated cascading style sheets that people in the past had that might have made jumping into web design, intimidating. It's built in. It's built in. Again, another reason why I think it's good. So um, they're pretty slick and responsive. As an example of modern web design, not necessarily um, on Google Sites, but we're currently going through a full redesign of our beautiful Silmar HS website. And I just wanted to compare some of the structural differences. I don't want to harp or badmouth on our old site because I think it's an excellent resource, but there's always room for improvement. There's always room for progress. So it's always good to take a step forward and analyze the past and say, okay, well, what are the differences and why is it this way? So if you look, our older site has quite a bit of very very dense text. Now, when this shrinks down into our current mobile environment, you can actually see. Let's go to silmarhs.org. Here's our desktop site. Looks pretty good. We got some content, a lot of information. I'm not going to say there's no information. It's quite a bit of information. But when you shrink it down, like you would see in a mobile environment, it's not responsive. It's not really changing the way that it looks. It 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 would shrink. It would shrink everything, so this text would become itty bitty 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 tiny, and these buttons would become really hard. So if you've ever used our site on a mobile environment, which is a majority of our students, it can be somewhat frustrating. Um, so because of that, we're going through a web redesign, and uh, Mr. Rodriguez has given us uh, a little glimpse of that, and it looks pretty dang good. Obviously, the resolution on here isn't the same resolution that we're going to see on the final site, but it's a lot more sparse of text, and it is a lot more visual content. So when you are designing your Google site, if you actually do jump into this and make a Google site, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind that modern web design features a little bit more visual content. And that's right here. Our beloved old site, while full of lots of helpful information, is tricky to navigate on smaller screens. Lots of text can be confusing and daunting for new users. The new Silmar site, and you can just pull it up right here. There is a link to it. It's giving us a sample view of what this will be. The new site, I think it looks beautiful. I think it looks great. Shout outs to the administrative team for putting this together and always working to improve. I always love to hear that we're always looking to improve. There should never be stagnation in education. Always improve. You can see it's looking great, very clean, and I know that this will also look great on a mobile environment because I think they have, do they have a responsive? No, unfortunately right now they're not showing it being responsive, but once it goes live, it will be responsive. I know that much. So um, keep that in mind. Also keep in mind that when we do navigate to a new Silmar site, there is a potential that all of our indexed search results for our old Silmar site results might not be there. So, like, not to say that that's definitely the case, but when we do migrate to the new page, um, if you want control over the new results, because the old results might not be there, they might not be at the top of Google anymore, then you should probably take control of that right now by making your own site. If you make your own Google site and you put it at the top of Google, hey, you don't have to worry about whether or not your site is accessible from the old site. Um, and so right there, Google Sites is built around a responsive and modern user experience. With Google Sites, you don't have to pay the buco bucks that LAUSD shells out for that fresh new look. I think that newer sites, they can run schools a good amount of money. So we're doing it for free with Google Sites. It's completely free. And it's very simple to create this site. Very, very simple to create. All you got to do is go to sites.google.com, make sure that you're logged into your account, and you're going to get a page that looks like this, and you can just start your own site with a blank template and run from there. And in a few moments after I demonstrate some of these, I'll show you how I make this site. It's very, very easy. It's very intuitive. It's just a lot of just adding in content, and it structures it for you. So you'll be given something like this where you click some boxes and you just literally add pictures and add text. That's it. That's all you got to do. So I've got some sample websites from Google Sites of some of our very own Silmar Spartans that have used Google Sites. One of the technical challenges that I always face is the differential skill levels and acceptance of technology. One of our biggest critics of forced technological implementation is our very own Mr. Cohen. And I am extremely proud of Bob this last year because he has taken the leap of faith. He has enrolled in a Master's of Science Education that has a huge emphasis on technology, and he himself has made an excellent Google site. If you open this up, anybody who's searching for him through this and finds this has a beautiful splash screen with all of the information he needs. I like to think about WWBD when I am considering my technological lessons, and that WWBD is what would Bob do? And in this case, I know that if Bob can make a Google site, I think that a majority of our savvy Silmar staff can also do the same thing. So Google Sites is pretty simple to use. Not to discredit Bob, his skill set has grown immensely, but uh, we all know that he 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 will be critical about that technology, and it can be difficult for him. But he has gotten this Google site running, and it looks beautiful, and it's a great landing page for people that are interested in getting some more information. This one is for his master's program, so his colleagues in the master's program can verify that the information is there. His professors can verify it. This isn't necessarily for his class, but it is for how easy Google Sites are to make. You can make Google Sites for anything, for your master's program, for your class, for your professional life, for your personal life. I'll show you some more examples. These are some former students. One former student right here, Esther, has been responsible for making the Steam Ahead website, and it also looks great. She's got a lot of good visual content that's eye-catching. She's got the footer with all the information. Oh, she should have used the different badge that I supplied, but there's always room for improvement. And it's a landing page for students that are interested in various events, especially when it comes to clubs. This is a great way to comprehensively organize all of the data for your clubs, for your sports teams, for your class. Um, so that's the Steam Ahead website. I mentioned clubs. Uh, Chris came to me asking about help for setting up this site for the Sylmar Math Association. I've done some advertising for other students so they can get invested and potentially join the club or take advantage of those services. And he has a landing page that has all of the information on it available there. And additionally, I do use this in my own classroom. I said that it's got to be a final project. The students they create. I'm sure all of us are very familiar with Bloom's taxonomy, and the top of Bloom's taxonomy. What's the top of Bloom's taxonomy? Always create, create, create. If you can get your students to create something and they are personally invested in the creation of that thing and they are proud of that thing, like a Google website in a digital environment, they are more invested. So the way that I use this is I give them a certain amount of information that I want them to collect. I want them to copy from my template website, and then they also have to produce their own personal content that is relevant to them, but I give them some flexibility. Like, for example, in this introduction page, this student has to give me some information about the college that they want to attend, and you can see the Northridge background in this picture. They also had to, for chemistry, make their name out of the periodic table of the elements, and that gives a little bit of creative liberties for a lot of these students. I don't tell them exactly what they need, but they get creative. They'd surprise you, and I give them a lot of hopefully technical background information that's helpful. Like, for example, with the Silicon page, they have to show me that they can identify the specs of their computer that they're using, and they have to show me that they can clip screenshots from their computer, that they can verify their download and upload speeds from a speed test, and that they can verify that they've changed their profile picture in Zoom, and that they can identify the parts in a computer and put together a mock computer. So these are some of the things that I use in my classroom, and maybe that's inspiration for you. There's lots of different ways to implement activities in the classroom for Google Sites. This is just how I do it. I like to give them a helping hand and scaffold to some of the easier content and let them create on their own. Another reason why I think that these are valuable resources for your students is the same reason that I'm advocating for the teachers that have them. It's something that people are going to do when they look for your name. If they see a result at the top, they're gonna look at that. So a lot of our students are definitely going to be looking for work very soon. What do you think a job or a boss is going to do first? First thing the boss is going to do is probably Google you, check your resume, see what your online persona looks like. I'm going to say personally, I've been involved in some hiring committees, and the first thing that I do when I'm looking through these resumes is I Google those people. I absolutely will. And I'll tell you, if I see somebody who has an online persona that they have control over using Google Sites, then I'm going to give them mad brownie points. In fact, that's one of the biggest reasons why I advocated for the hire of one of our teachers is because she had a great technological prowess, and that's something that I value as an instructor. So that's something that I thought was valuable to hire. So our students need to be able to curate their own online personas for their own benefits, not just the activities that we do in class. I think these are long-term valuable skills to have. So I've said that there's a multitude of things that you can use it for. I've got my, oh goodness, look at this right here. I didn't even put the links in. Let me show you how easy it is to change some links here. I'll open up another tab. Let's go to sites.google.com. Let's open up my site right there because I see that I goofed up and I didn't include the links that I need to. Okay, so this is our structure for Google Sites. I'm giving you a little bit of information about how this works, and then we'll talk about some of the ones that I've used and created. It's pretty simple. You've got a banner, and you've got you can add different content. You can see this bar on the right-hand side. It's slightly cropped. Let me move that just a bit so it's not as cropped. Okay, so you can see on this toolbar over here that if I wanted to add things, I can add text boxes, images, embeds. I can use some of the pre-designated layouts. It's very intuitive. It tells you exactly what you can add and where you can add it, and it gives you boxes and it frames it nicely. You should be aware that this is still a website, and web structuring, you have pages. You have a launch home page, and then those slashes at the end, like brianteaches.com slash whatever. Those are different pages within the structure of the website, of the hierarchy, folder hierarchy. I mean, they're literally just folders. That's all websites are. It's just different folders and files that are set on somebody else's server. So you want to create new pages for all of your new information. So for example, I have the PD page listed, and I can scroll down and you can see it's all kind of, oh, text, 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 pictures. Let's go down here. So my sites, let's put in the link. The insert link for this is www.brianteaches.com, and I'll apply that. For this, my class site, well, thankfully, when you use Google Sites, all of your sites are listed in this little chart. So let's go to, I'll open this class site that I have, and I can view the published site, and from there I'll grab the link and I'll put that link right in here. Whoops. I also have the Sylmar Esports League, Sylmar Esports, and it is at the very top of Google because of the very search engine optimization that I've mentioned. We are currently competing this season for scholarships in the LA Unified Esports League. It's very exciting, but I have all of the information linked here for the students, including videos and our Discord links and our YouTube links and our Twitch links. So there's lots of links and lots of information that you want to get your students to be able to access. I would say that one of the biggest perks of this is that you are independent of any of the other structures that you normally would be, very dependent on. Like Schoology, for example. I love using Schoology in my class, but when Schoology goes down, which it's gone down a few times this semester. I've heard complaints from teachers that Schoology's down, they can't do anything. Their students can't access their Zooms, they can't access material. They are at the mercy of Schoology. That doesn't sound very safe. From an insurance standpoint, you would kind of want to have some sort of backup. So that's why another reason why I have this personal site is that if for whatever reason Schoology goes down, the students can always access the information from my course, including Zoom links and spreadsheets that we work on, by going to the website, just going to brianteaches.com. So they get in the habit, they learn that, okay, this is the way that I get to the information for Smith's class. So that's that one here. I'll link that. Just as easy as this, just go into the site. Let's go ahead and link it. And I even have one for my personal life. So when I Googled, for example, Miss Steiner, and it popped up her Facebook, well, if you're not curating your social media, your students might sleuth around and they might find something that you don't want them to. So even with my personal life, I've tried to keep that curated. I have a website dedicated to my wife and baby son. So the students can look at that and they can look at pictures of some of the big life moments that I obviously talk about with the students, like when we got engaged or married or went on the honeymoon or had the baby. All of these were things that I like to share with the students, but visuals are important. So it's a good way to keep all of the information comprehensive and also to have control over it. So yeah, this is some of the information about my son, and that way I can share it with my students and I don't have to worry about them looking through my social media, which I don't really use much anyways, but nonetheless, and I'll put that in there. So that's the reason that I use Google Sites, and that's the reason why I think you guys should also use Google Sites. If I've sold you, awesome. If not, no worries. Maybe I'll get you on the next PD. But if I've sold you, well, let's get started. Let me show you how to do some of these things. It's pretty quick and simple, and I wanted to demonstrate that. So let's demonstrate by going to sites.google.com. And I'm going to make one. I again said one of the mantras that I live by is WWBD. What would Bob do? If I was in Bob's position, I would want to make sure that, hey, I have control over multiple aspects of my career, including, let's see, Sylmar tennis. Hmm. You know, the Sylmar tennis team, it doesn't seem to be at the top of the results here. So, hmm. How can I change that? If I wanted somebody, if a student was interested in the Sylmar tennis team, especially since conditioning is now going to be potentially greenlit so that our students can come back on campus and practice. I'm sure there's a lot of students that are interested in the schedules for different sports, for the forms, for the stats. These are things that if I was a coach, I should probably have some comprehensive place to access this information for when the students ask these questions. So let's see if we can't make one for our good old-fashioned Sylmar tennis team. Okay, so I made a new site. All I did was make the new site, and it comes right here with not a lot of information. So let's title this as Sylmar Tennis, and hopefully when we name it this way based off of the things that are going to be done, hopefully it makes it up to the top. I'm going to add a logo. I'll upload a logo. I've got a lot of my content pre-generated here. So you're free to always grab this content if you like, but I've got a cleaned up Sylmar Spartans badge right there that I let the students use, or anybody who wants to use it. And you could also add a favicon, which is the tiny little icon at the top. Let's see if, do I have a favicon set up? I wonder if that would work. That might work just as well too. So a lot of personalization that you can do with these sites. And I just kind of let my students dip their toes in the water, and if the ones that enjoy it run with it, awesome. And I have had a few that have run with it and have made really impressive sites with great portfolios. Um, but I don't expect everybody to have a, a perfect mastery of this. So I'm just showing you some of the things that you can do. Um, okay, so that's our logo and our favicon, the tiny little icon that shows up here. Let's change our image. Let's upload a good image. Let's see. I pulled some content. I wanted to pull a big, beautiful picture from our Sylmar tennis team. It should be adjusting. Oh, yeah, that should be good. And we've got a nice banner there. So let's add some things to this. Now you've got our layout over here. Our layout buttons right over here to the side. Let me remove that crop. Um, and you can do multiple things with this. So if I was to click this layout button right here, I could click that button, and when I click that, it gives me the option to add text, add an image, and add more text. You can change lots of things. You can just drag things around, and things will snap in place. It's very user friendly. So let's add an image. Let's say let's select an image. Now let's upload an image. We'll upload an image, and these are some of the images that I pulled up. I was going to pull up this picture of Bob himself, Bob and his wife Linda. Um, Welcome to Sylmar's tennis team. I'm Coach Cohen, and I've been at Sylmar teaching tennis for a good while. Hopefully this webpage is a valuable source of information for you. And you know what? Let's see. Let's change this to about the coach. And I'm going to change the background to this. Let's make it a different emphasis. We're going to put this at the bottom actually. Let's add in another box. I'm actually not going to lead with that one, so I'm going to put that right here. We've got the banner, and we've got the name of this. So let's put in, instead of just jumping right into the coach, let's put in some more content. Let's put in an older picture for boys tennis, because we've got the ladies represented, but let's get some equal representation for one of our boys teams. Okay, so we can do this. We'll say, welcome to Sylmar Tennis. Are you a Sylmar Spartan interested in joining the team? Please check this link in order to fill out the athletic clearance form and get registered to play. And you can change various things, like I can change the size of this. I'll change it to a heading, and this is going to be our title. Let's add in maybe some more information that could be useful. Let's say we can add a number of things. We could add in, see if we can do a Max Preps embed. Create a Max Preps wall widget. Let's make this wall widget. Let's do Sylmar High School. Sylmar High School pops up. Let's do girls tennis, varsity, item count. Let's just do 3 of them. Include a widget header. No, let's allow scroll bar. No, let's look at what this edit is. Or here, maybe we'll do boys tennis first. And preview the widget. Okay, and it has updates from Max Preps. I'm sure some of the Coaches are familiar with MaxPreps and are using it to collect stats and record wins and losses and things like that. So it might be helpful to have, say, your stats listed and organized on your page. So you get the code and you can copy this code over, and you can just add in a new box, and we can just drag it over. And we can add an embed. We'll embed some code, add that code, insert it, and we'll drag it over here. We'll say there. And you can just click one of those and delete it. Maybe put in a text box above it to show. Whoops. Remember, Control Z to always reverse anything that you do. So let's see. MaxPreps boys tennis updates. And I'll center that over, and I'll make that a heading. And then let's just copy the same thing. We'll do it for the girls tennis. So if you have multiple updates that you want your students to access, your athletes, your student athletes, this is a good way to do it. Let's copy this. I'll just copy this whole thing, make a copy of it, and we'll do a different embed. Again, these specific details that I'm going over, these are just, I'm giving some ideas of how you can do this. There's a number of things that you can use a website for. Let's do, say, the girls tennis team. We'll preview this widget. Sure, we'll get the code for that. And let's change that code, and boom. Now we've got the girls updates, the boys updates. We've got maybe a link for the athletic clearance form, and we would just go in and add the link. And you got a little bit of content that shows who these people are. Coach Bob Cohen has been, oh, and let's see. I'm going to be smart about the copy pasting of this information. I'll scroll down to our Magnetor, grab that here. Let's add another text box and plug this in right there. Coach Cohen. And we'll make it aligned actually to the left. That's fine because the title's aligned to the left. But I'd like to make the alignment. And I'm very particular about the way that things look. I'm particular about alignment and making sure that everything looks clean as can be. As I said, these are slick websites, so the details matter. And then I can even add a footer. I can add a tiny little footer with this information, and shoot, I can just go ahead and I'll grab it from one of the many sites that I use for this, and I'll go over here. I'll make this small text, paste this plain text. Let's make that smaller. And let's also insert an image, upload it. Let's go grab the badge that I just used. And we'll shrink that guy down. You can see a lot of it's just playing around with settings and making it look as nice as you want it to. And then we're going to publish it. after I've put together this site, I can go ahead and hit the publish button and make a custom URL. Register your domain. Let's see if we've got one. SilmarTennis.com. Let's see if that's taken. Oh, it's $12 a year. Okay, I'll just buy it right now. Go to the cart. Sure, sure, sure. Checkout. Sure. It registers. Okay, now let's go back. Let's see, www.silmartennis.com. Assign. Okay, that's it. Done. Now, if you go to www.silmartennis.com, it should lead to this site, and hopefully this will navigate up to the top. I'm going to actually share this website because just like any other Google product, you can give this access to various other people. So I'm going to give Mr. Cohen access to this so he can edit things as he wants, and I will give him editor access. So if he is unhappy with some of the content or he wants to add links, it's as simple as that. So it really didn't take that much time. It was $12 a year. So unfortunately, you are going to have to pay about $1 a month if you want a custom domain, but I think it is definitely a worthy investment. But that's that. That is now our view publish site. That's about as difficult as it is. That's as difficult as it needs to be. And then you have a good launch pad for your students to access you and access information about your course or your club or your team or even your personal life. So hopefully this PD has been inspirational at the least. If you're having trouble with some of the technical difficulties, adding YouTube videos, because I know that just really quickly, Miss Peraza had asked about that. I'll show you how easy that is. If I was to go to sites.google.com and I go to my site, my class site. I have every one of my daily VODs posted so that the students can access that. Let's go to the daily VOD. And I've been adding in all of the videos. I'm a little bit backlogged. I got to put those in. So if I was to add in a YouTube video, it's as simple as going to YouTube, going to your YouTube studio, and going to your videos. If you've been uploading your videos to YouTube, I'm looking for day 15. Just grab your shareable link, click the button, click YouTube, put in the link, click it, put it in, click it, done. That's it. That's all you got to do. So hopefully that is not too difficult. If you have questions about any of this, I will answer them now.